Hello and welcome, it's Chris from Christopher Holt Training, and welcome to this tutorial where we're going to be talking about the missing link that can help improve and build your core strength and stability in some respects immediately if we're doing it. We're going to cover it in 4 different parts. So what we're going to talk about, number 1, are the current cues that people are using at the moment, so some more popular ones. Then we're going to talk about the missing link cue that isn't used as much. Some people will use it, but it's not getting used as much as the other one, so we want to try and include them together. Then we're going to talk about some anatomy, so we're going to talk about some muscles involved, and then we're going to talk about how it affects your core stability and your core strength. And then finally, we're going to talk about some exercises, but we're going to do it in a logical way, so more of a coaching process that I would use with people. So I'm going to be explaining that coaching process about how we could then go and apply it. So let's get started. Before we get into the start of the tutorial, just quickly want to mention my social media, which you can see just over my shoulder there. You've got Instagram, Twitter, Facebook and YouTube, so please do come along to any of those. Just type in Christopher Holt Training and you'll find me. Come along to those and please do like, follow, subscribe. If you're on YouTube, please do click the subscribe button, hit the bell icon, and you'll be notified of my next tutorial. Alternatively, please do leave comments below, feedback below, questions below. I'm more than happy to answer those. And finally, please do come along to the link in the description where you can go to my Core Strength and Stability online program, and you can learn more about this, learn more about the coaching techniques that I'm going to be talking about and how to apply these coaching cues to core strength and stability workouts and exercise. The current core strengthening cues that you may have heard of before are number 1, tight abdominals, probably the most popular one. Number 2, shoulders back and down. And then number 3 is butt squeezed or knees out or spread the floor, depending on the exercise that you're doing. This one in certain exercises could be bending the bar, but that's exercise specific. But essentially what we're aiming to do are those 3 bullet points. And what that looks like when it comes to your body. When we talk about tight abdominals or the abdominal brace, we're talking about setting the obliques, the rectus abdominis, that basically cover what would be described as the abdominal wall. So we're setting this whole front part of the torso. Then we come into shoulders back and down, and what we get shoulders back and down is trapezius. Mainly the lower and middle parts. There will be elements of the upper part of the trapezius here, but essentially the focus is the middle to upper. Then you've got the rhomboids, which go between the shoulder blades towards the spine. And then in some elements will be serratus anterior in here will get set, because essentially we're setting the shoulder blades. And then the final part, when we push down, will be the latissimus dorsi. So that comes all the way down, in some respects, the length of the spine that joins into this thoracolumbar fascia down here and goes all the way up the other side as well. So as we set the abdominal wall, it's the anterior part. As we bring shoulders back and down, we're essentially looking at this posterior part of the torso, trapezius, rhomboids, latissimus dorsi. We'll also get elements of the serratus anterior in there. And then the final one, which is butt squeezed, we're talking about glute max in this area. Then we've got the glute medius, which again is sort of underneath. And then again, underneath that, we've got glute minimus in this position. So what we're essentially doing with these cues or activities is we are setting the torso in position, ready to execute a heavier lift. And what it's helping us do, it's protecting the spine. It's also protecting internal organs and creating that intra-abdominal pressure where it's going to then add to the strength of the lift that we are choosing to do. So what is packing the neck? Well, it's the same idea and the same principle as the tight abdominals, the squeezing of the hips and the shoulders back and down. It's there to stiffen and bring strength to the spine. Hence why I could say, in some respects, it does it immediately. So what we're looking to do is, number 1, we're looking to avoid this chin poking posture, because that's not very effective and it's quite a weak position. If we're looking at other exercises, it's having that exaggerated curve of the spine. So that could be a chin poke or looking up like so. And what we want to try and do is keep the head in line with the shoulders. So we tuck the chin back and we point down, or just tuck the chin down ever so slightly. So we flatten that lumbar curve, which then sets the spine, which sets the torso and sets all the muscles around the spine to be stiff and to be strong. The anatomy of the neck that we're talking about are the neck flexors, or the anterior prevertebral muscles. So we've got longus coeli, which we've got different portions of, but essentially you can see it's labelled. I'll just quickly draw them on. You've got them coming out, going up the neck. You've also got them coming down the neck through here. You've then got longus capitis, which is a bigger muscle, but essentially it's not that big a muscle. And then we've got rectus capitis anterior and rectus capitis lateralis, which again you can see in this position up in the base of the skull and up towards the skull at the top of the neck. So all these muscles are, in a sense, combining together to create a whole that is greater than the sum of its parts. You may have heard me say that in past videos when I'm talking about core strength and stability, but the more we can bring the spine and the torso together, the stronger it's going to be, because the one unit is going to be holding you in a much stronger position, which is then going to allow you to lift heavier and sort of, in some respects, push the boundaries of what you thought you were capable of anyway. So what we need to be thinking about when we're packing the neck is getting these neck flexors into a stiffened position, so it can not only improve your core stability, but it can also protect the cervical spine that goes up through. So how does packing the neck improve your core strength and stability? Number one, the spine is one unit. So you may have heard me say before that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So the more of the torso we can get working, the more of the spine coverage we can get of the muscles working over that, then the better for the spine it's going to be. Number two, by doing this, the neck flexors come online. So what that's doing, that's setting the cervical part of the spine, so this top part of the neck, that's setting that in position. So it's not only sort of building the core strength and stability of it in that moment, it's also protecting the structures, the passive structures, the bones, the vertebra, the vertebral discs and the ligaments that are surrounding it as well. Number three, it helps the spinal erectors come online. So when we're talking about bracing the abdominal wall, that's focusing on rectus abdominis and the obliques. Then we've got traps, rhomboids and lats when it comes to the shoulders back and down. But what doesn't always get mentioned are the spinal erectors. So by packing the neck, that helps them come online. So what we've got is, in some respects, layers around the spine. You've got the spinal erectors, which are close to the spine. Then you've got lats, traps, rhomboids that kind of wrap around the spine at a more superficial level. So not only is it wrapping around the spine all the way, but also the layers from deep all the way to superficial. Number four, it helps set the diaphragm and the pelvic floor. So as I've mentioned about the deeper layers, it brings them online, sets them in position, so we can create that cylinder in the sort of the deep part of the core where we can protect the vital organs, but also we can create the core stability not only on a superficial level, but also on a much deeper level. And then number five, it sets the thoracic spine and the shoulder blade. So we've talked about with the shoulders back and down, but if we poke the chin forward, we lose muscle activation lower down the sort of lower to middle part of the trapezius, and then it comes more online in the upper part of the trapezius. So what we do when we pull shoulders back and down and pack the neck is we set that thoracic and cervical part of the spine and all the muscles that come around it. The final piece in this puzzle is how we bring it all together and actually use the information that I've talked about. So we've talked about packing the neck, tucking in the chin, drawing the chin towards the chest ever so slightly, sort of keeping a slightly flatter curve through the cervical spine. And this is now a little bit about the coaching process of how to put all that information into practice. So what I'm going to say is I've got 4 images on here. Now, how I coach would be from simple to more complex. That could even, well, in some respects, 3 and 4 could be interchangeable, But basically I'm looking at limbs that are moving or joints that are working. So here we've got no joints moving, this is just static. So this is the easiest position to get all 4 of those coaching cues in. So bracing the abdominal wall, bringing the shoulders back and then down, squeezing the butt cheeks in here, and then packing the neck up through here. Because no body part is moving, it's very easy just to focus on those 4 things and only those 4 things. So in some respects, no matter who I'm working with, whether they're sort of perceived as beginner, intermediate, advanced, this is the type of thing that I would start with, just for the very simple reason of it's very easy to get all those 4 things. If we're trying to get all those 4 things and then throw in arms and legs moving, then it's going to be a little bit harder, just because there's more things to think about. So once we've got this in position, so we've sorted out in the plank, we've just focused on those 4 coaching cues, then I'm thinking about, well, okay, let's add in some limbs. So in some respects, we've got one limb moving in the deadlift and in the push-up. So this is where you would go next. So again, we're looking at abdominal wall, shoulders back and down, even during the push-up, butt squeezed, and then packing of the neck. So again, we're doing that whilst we're going through a push, because again, when I'm working with certain people, I will ask them, what could you feel working? What muscles could you feel working? And they'll just say, I was just trying to complete the movement, because it's too much to think about. So again, another reason is I would start here. Right, okay, we've got that. Now we move into here. Okay, can you still keep the brace, keep the shoulders back and down, squeeze the butt cheeks, and pack the neck, and then move the arms on top of that through a push-up. And then if they've gone through that correctly and at their own speed, then the answer is generally yes. We can then take it from the upper body to the lower body, do exactly the same. We would go brace the abdominals, shoulders back, and then down. Again, here it wouldn't necessarily be glute max squeeze, but we would certainly bring knees out either side, and that would activate glute medius, glute minimus. And then again, what I'm looking for is, well, certainly within a RDL or a deadlift or a squat, is the spine wants to be in its neutral position, but the last thing that we want is the head up like so, looking forward, because what we've done then is we've hyperextended the cervical spine, which is causing problems, as we've talked about, a bit further down the line or a bit further down the spine. So if we can keep that in position, we're looking down at the floor, then we're going to be holding that torso and the muscles and that hole that is greater than the sum of its parts in position, so that we can lift a nice heavy lift that we want to lift. And then finally, we're coming into chops. So you can see here I'm moving sort of hips, feet, arms. Also, I'm keeping everything in line. So I've got that natural S-curve all the way through. I'm bracing the abdominals through here. Shoulders are back and down through here. Butt cheeks again, keeping those tense, and then packing the neck, so keeping the sort of chin tucked, but also tucked back into the sort of upper part of the back. So again, it's building in phases. So when I'm talking about coaching, I wouldn't necessarily just throw someone in at the deep end and try and get them deadlifting, because deadlifting can be technical enough, let alone abdominals, glutes, shoulders back and down, head in position, packing the neck, so on and so forth. So we build it in stages, and then those are just sort of 4 very simple exercises to use so that you can progress through. Obviously, these get applied to, in some respects, all exercises, but essentially we're looking at just doing it in a logical fashion to be able to keep the core strength as strong as possible. So as I mentioned, this can be done almost immediately, because it's just a case of going into a gym or into an exercise environment and performing these coaching cues or coaching techniques. So many thanks for watching. Let's now just recap over everything that we've talked about. There's potentially been quite a lot of information in this tutorial when we're talking about coaching cues, anatomy, then the exercises that we put on top of the coaching cues, so on and so forth. So what I just want to do is just summarize the key learning points and some key takeaways so you can go and start putting this into practice. So the core strengthening cues, there are 4 of them. Tight abdominals or the abdominal brace. Shoulders back and down, butt squeezed, pack the neck. If we can get those 4 in and together, we're going to have a much stronger, more stable core with a much more protected spine. Then, how does it improve core strength and stability? The spine is one unit. The neck flexors come online. This helps the spinal erector group, the diaphragm, the pelvic floor, the thoracic spine, and the shoulder blades. And then finally, exercises to use it within: planks, push-ups, chops, deadlifts, squats. Now this could be any exercises, but I've chosen those 4/5 because there's a very logical way of putting it into practice. Start off with the static exercise of the plank, so it allows you to get the 4 coaching cues set in so you can understand them. So as you then move into push-ups, chops, deadlifts and squats, you're then wrapping the movement on top of that. So you're competent at performing the 4 cues, and then you wrap the movement on top, rather than trying to just do all of it at the same time. So again, it's much more logical. It's the way that I coach people when I work with them, be it online or be it face to face. Start off simple, make more complex as the competency improves. So many thanks for watching. My name is Chris, and I look forward to speaking with you in the next tutorial.